Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Courtney and I am so glad you're here. If you're new here, like I said, my name is Courtney and this is a true crime discussion channel. It is relatively new, so bear with me. Also, I am extremely congested, so I am going to sound rather nasally during this video. I'm so sorry if that's like annoying, but I had to get this filmed today and I'm not feeling well. So I'm really going to try to keep my voice like peppy and normal, but like it's really hard. Also, if you are a returning viewer, for one, thank you so much for coming back and watching the next video. And two, you may or may not have noticed on my community tab, which YouTube has now opened up for this channel, which is pretty cool. But anyway, you may or may not have noticed over in that community tab, I made a post a few days ago about kind of changing this channel around a little bit. If you want to go see more of that, head on over to the community tab and you will be able to find that post. But yeah, I think that's all that I really needed to discuss with you guys before I jumped in to today's case, so let's get right into it. Today's case takes place in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Our main focus of this case is a super sweet little girl named Peyton. At the time, she is in 4th grade, and she notices this other little girl who is another 4th grader. Her name is Morgan, and she's sitting alone. And Peyton is, from everything that I've read, is such a super sweet, really empathetic girl. She feels a lot of empathy for other people, very big-hearted. So she sees this little girl, Morgan, sitting alone, and she thinks nobody should have to sit alone. So she goes over to Morgan, introduces herself, and they click. And just like that, they are besties. Peyton said it was Morgan's imagination that made everything like an adventure when they were together, and she was funny, and she was just a really good time. So fast forward a couple years, the girls are now in 6th grade, they're about 12 years old. Morgan meets another girl named Anissa. Now Anissa was new, she just moved into the same apartment complex as Morgan, and that would be making her ride the same school bus as Morgan also. So Morgan and Anissa, they're around each other a lot, they're one of the first faces that they see every day before school, so they become pretty good friends. Morgan really likes Anissa, so she decides that she's going to bring her into the friend group with Peyton, and so now it's like the 3 Musketeers, this group of 3 best friends, and everything's great. But shortly after Anissa joined the friend group, Peyton started to notice that Morgan and Anissa were becoming really close and not really so much Peyton. They were like almost kind of leaving her out a little bit. This was all happening because Morgan and Anissa were bonding over this fictional character that they were obsessing about. This fictional character is a very tall, faceless figure. He's always wearing a suit. He has tentacles that can come out of his back. Lure children. Children are his main target. He can lure children into the woods, into his mansion. He was abnormally tall. He was like anywhere from 10 to 15 feet tall. And if this sounds familiar to you, it's because this was a very popular fictional character called Slenderman. So Morgan and Anissa are really obsessing over the Slenderman. They think it's just the best story they've ever heard. Peyton, not so much. It's really kind of given Peyton the creeps, and I don't blame her. I mean, if I was 12 years old, I definitely would kind of get creeped out over this big, tall, scary figure that targets children. But like I said in the beginning, Peyton is such a sweet, loving, caring person that she just supports Morgan and Anissa because if they love it, like that's great, I'm going to support you, but I don't like it. A quote from Peyton says, "Morgan liked it and thought it was real, but I went along with it. I was supportive because I thought that's what she liked." So like I said, Slenderman is a fictional character. He was actually created on an online forum called Something Awful, and then the story was also put onto this website called Creepypasta. Creepypasta is kind of pretty much like what it sounds, except for I don't know where the pasta comes in, but the creepy part of it. It's these creepy stories, scary stories, all fictional. The creator of Slenderman actually entered his creation into this online Photoshop paranormal contest in 2009, and he won. So if you remember, Slenderman became super popular, and I'm pretty sure there's movies about it, there's video games, there's computer games, probably like apps on your phone, I don't know. But Slenderman did become pretty popular. According to the Slenderman myths, he can cause amnesia, large coughing spells, paranoia, and he hides in forests. So obviously, even just from the description of him, he is a fictional character, but to these young girls, they kind of start believing the story and they think Slenderman is real. So more time went on, Morgan and Anissa just become more and more obsessed. They are talking about Slenderman 24/7. That's all they ever want to talk about, all they ever want to research. And it's really starting to mess with Peyton. Like, she kind of gets so scared that she goes to her mom and she's like, Mom, like, Morgan and Anissa are telling me about this thing called Slenderman, and she tells her all about it, and she's like, it's not real, right? Like, you tell me it's not real. And of course, just like any other mom would do, she said, no, honey, like, it's a completely fictional character, it's not real, it's just a scary story, don't worry. So, fast forwarding a little more, it is now time to celebrate Morgan's 12th birthday party. Morgan, Anissa, and Peyton, the trio, went out to a roller skating rink, they had frozen yogurt, and then they all went back to Morgan's house for a slumber party. Pretty typical stuff. So during the sleepover, things were a little weird. Normally, you know, 3 12-year-old girls, they want to stay up as late as they possibly can, maybe even pull an all-nighter. I did that stuff around that age with my friends as often as I possibly could. For some reason, I thought it was so cool to just stay up all night. But for some reason, Morgan wanted to go to bed pretty early in the night. She didn't want anybody to stay up any longer. She just wanted to go to bed. And it's really, really weird, but, like, Peyton's like, okay, it's your birthday party, let's go to bed. So the girls go to bed. The next morning, Peyton wakes up and she looks around, and there's no sign of Morgan and Anissa, and she's like, what the heck, where are they at? So she goes downstairs, and she finds the 2 girls at the computer. And I'm sure by now you can pretty much guess what they were researching. Slenderman. So finally, when the girls get away from the computer, they all 3 have breakfast. They had donuts for breakfast, which is pretty cool. It's like continuing to celebrate Morgan's birthday. Let's have some donuts for breakfast. So after having breakfast, the girls decide they want to take a walk and go down to the park. Now, normally Morgan's mom does not let them go anywhere without an adult, but at this point she's like, okay, like, it's her slumber party, it's her birthday, I'm going to let them go ahead and go to the park, like, what could possibly go wrong? So the girls go for a walk, they get to the park, and then Morgan suggests, let's play a game of hide and seek. Yeah, okay, like that sounds great, let's play. So Morgan says, I'll count, Peyton and Anissa, you go hide. So the 2 girls go off to hide while Morgan counts, and they kind of go deeper back into the woods. Now when they get to where they decide they're going to hide, Anissa says to Peyton, why don't you lay down and cover yourself with sticks and leaves to hide? Like, there's no way Morgan will find you if you cover yourselves in sticks and leaves. Little did Peyton know that was just a trick to get her down on the ground. So once she's down on the ground, I don't know, I couldn't find anything if she like actually got herself covered up or if she just got down on the ground. But soon Morgan comes at Peyton with a 5-inch kitchen knife that she had grabbed from their kitchen before they went to the park, and she stabbed Peyton 19 times. Peyton was stabbed in the arms, the legs, her torso. 2 of the wounds hit major organs, and 1 stab wound just barely missing a major artery in her heart. Once the girls were done, they left Peyton in the woods to die alone. But the crazy thing about this is Peyton wasn't dead. This badass of a little girl somehow manages to just muster up every bit of strength that she has left, and she gets herself out of those woods. She gets herself to the end of a dead-end road where she collapses on the side of the road, and thankfully a man riding his bike saw her. Greg Steinberg, I believe is how you say his last name. He was out riding his bike that morning. He had taken a different route than he usually does, thankfully, because then he ended up seeing Peyton. This man immediately calls 911. And on the 911 call, you can hear him trying to comfort Peyton. He is saying, honey, he's coming. They'll be here any minute. It's going to be okay. Soon after, the ambulance arrives, and Officer Dan Klein was the first officer to respond on the scene. A quote from Officer Dan says, she wasn't moving a whole lot. As I approached her, I said, hi, I'm Officer Dan. Are you okay? She said no. And Officer Klein says, as I got closer, I started to see a little bit more blood, and the closer I got, the more blood I saw. So, of course, Peyton was immediately rushed to Pro Health Waukesha Memorial Hospital, where she went through emergency surgery. The doctors just absolutely could not believe what they were seeing. They saw this little girl stabbed 19 times, and she was alive. Dr. John Kellerman was one of the surgeons who operated on Peyton that day, and he said, quote, if the knife had gone the width of a human hair further, she wouldn't have lived. Just like take a strand of your hair, just one little tiny strand of your hair, and look at how itty bitty that is. And if the knife would have went that much further over, she would have died. So at this point, Morgan and Anissa, they are making their way to Nicollet National Forest, and they think, after doing all of their research, that this is where Slenderman lives, is in a mansion in the middle of Nicollet National Forest. They were trying to go find Slenderman to let him know that the deed is done, they've killed Peyton, and they want to prove to everybody that Slenderman is real. Just before 3 p.m. on that same day, Morgan and Anissa were found sitting on the side of the road by an officer who drove by, and at this point, they had been walking for 5 hours. So the officer notices the 2 girls sitting on the side of the road, and they're filthy, and so he thinks, I should probably stop and see what's up. So he stops, and he notices that they are covered in blood. Of course, he's going to automatically start questioning. He's asking them, like, do you guys have anything in your pockets, anything like that? Well, Morgan had the kitchen knife in her pocket. Arrested immediately. So from the reports I read, when Peyton woke up about 6 hours after surgery, she was still intubated because she couldn't breathe on her own. So investigators gave her a whiteboard to write answers down so they could kind of, had to get some answers out of her, but she was intubated. And it's amazing to me that after all of that trauma, Peyton still knows it was Morgan and Anissa that did this to me. And she writes it on the whiteboard and lets the investigators know who did this to her. She was pretty relieved when she found out that the 2 girls had already been found and arrested after they were found walking down the road covered in blood. In a later interview, Peyton said that once she found out Morgan and Anissa were trying to kill her to please Slenderman, she was not surprised at all. But what did really shock Peyton was the fact that she had no idea that this was something that Morgan and Anissa had been planning for weeks and maybe even months. According to Anissa, she said that she feared she was in danger because Slenderman said if they did not kill Peyton, that Slenderman was going to kill their entire family. So reports vary with certain details because, of course, Morgan and Anissa, during interrogation, they're pointing the fingers back and forth about who did what. But what we do know for sure is that Morgan is the one that did all of the stabbing, and Anissa is the one that either held Peyton down while Morgan was stabbing her, or she was keeping watch. I've read both, so I'm not exactly sure, but I would say that she was probably holding Peyton down. So following the investigation, Morgan was charged with attempted first-degree homicide, and Anissa was charged with attempted second-degree homicide. And remember, they're only 12 years old, but because their crimes were so intense and just horrifying, they were tried as adults. Now, in 2017, Anissa actually pled guilty to being a party to attempted second-degree homicide, but the jury found her not guilty by reason of insanity. Morgan accepted a plea offer so she wouldn't have to go to trial, and she would be evaluated by psychiatrists and later diagnosed with schizophrenia, which also her biological father had schizophrenia. Anissa was then sentenced up to 25 years in a mental health institution, and Morgan was sentenced up to 40 years in a mental health institution. Now, in the aftermath of all of this, the creepypasta website that I was talking about in the beginning, that was blocked throughout the entire Waukesha School District. So if you were living in that school district, you could not access creepypasta. Now, just a few days after the stabbing, the creator of Slenderman actually came out with a statement saying, quote, "I am deeply saddened by the tragedy in Wisconsin, and my heart goes out to the families of those affected by this terrible act." Now, the administrator of creepypasta also said the stabbing was an isolated incident that did not accurately represent the creepypasta community. He also stated that creepypasta was a literary website and that they did not condone murder or satanic rituals. Now, something that I thought was really nice that came out of all of this was how the community and people outside of the community came together to support Peyton. Members of the creepypasta community actually held a 24-hour live stream on YouTube that ran from June 13th through June 14th of 2014, and this was to help raise money for Peyton. Another administrator on the creepypasta website said the purpose of the stream was to show that members of the community cared for the victim and did not condone real-world violence because they enjoyed fiction that contained violence. Something else that's really amazing that came from this is on August 12th, 2014, Governor Scott Walker issued a proclamation declaring Wednesday, August 13th, 2014, Purple Hearts for Healing Day. He also encouraged the people of Wisconsin to wear purple on that day to honor Peyton. He was really praising the strength and determination that was shown by Peyton to get herself out of the situation. And I mean, I can't believe that she was able, after being stabbed 19 times, 2 of the stab wounds in vital organs, including her heart, and she was able to just get herself out of the woods and be seen by somebody so she could get some help. The city of Madison, Wisconsin held a one-day bratwurst festival to honor Peyton on August 29th, and this was several days before she returned back to school, because she returned back to school. This happened in May. She returned back to school in September. So at this festival, hot dogs and bratwurst were sold to raise money to help with the medical costs. The event had over 250 volunteers, and they raised over $70,000 to help the family with medical costs. So, like, good for you, Madison, Wisconsin. Like, that is absolutely amazing. Now, get this. And I don't want to say anything because I don't want to offend either side of the opinions here. But in 2021, Anissa was actually released from the Winnebago Mental Health Institute. Peyton and her family are saying that they are, quote, disappointed that Anissa was being released, and they wish that she would have served a longer sentence. But they also say they've been kind of mentally preparing for this day for a long time, and they are, quote, reasonably comfortable with the rules that Anissa has to follow after her release, which includes no contact, of course, with Peyton until 2039, and she does have to wear a GPS ankle monitor. Once Morgan heard that Anissa was released, she also tried to be released, but she was denied. And that is the story of the Slenderman stabbing. I want to know what you guys think below. One, I want to know if you think that being 12 years old, do you think that it was right that they were tried as adults, or do you think they should have been tried as juveniles? And do you think it was right that Anissa was granted to be released from the Winnebago Mental Health Institute? Thank you guys so much for sticking around for another case. I will be back next Tuesday with another one. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting and subscribing. Make sure you share this channel with your friends. Give my videos a thumbs up. I have big plans for this channel, so I'm really excited to be able to share everything with you guys. So my first goal, let's get to 1,000 subscribers. So share this channel with your friends, your family, anybody that you think would be interested in hearing the true crime cases I discuss. And don't forget to leave a comment and let me know y'all's input. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.